For years, the Roderick Island courthouse has been called a silent killer as toxic mold was found throughout the building. We've told you stories of 5 employees who died from ALS after working in the same part of that building. And dozens of cancer cases have been linked to that mold. The state promised a new solution, a new $2 billion courthouse on Liberty Street, but that plan is now stuck in a messy legal battle over allegations of political insider deals. Tonight, Governor Healey is breaking her silence on the controversy. She's defending the state's choice, claiming the deal actually saves you, the taxpayer, $300 million. But as the legal fight intensifies, the governor says this kind of drama is actually standard for the state. Western Mass News reporter Reagan Lokri is live outside the current courthouse with the latest. Reagan, the governor says the public can trust the process, but the losing developers say it's irrevocably tainted.
Yeah, that's right, Amanda. Well, Governor Healey says the public can absolutely trust the state's process. The developers that lost the bid are saying that no amount of last-minute resignations can fix what they call a broken system. Now, the controversy peaked yesterday when John Barros, interim executive director of the Mass Mutual Convention Center Authority and a key member of the winning team, announced he is walking away from the project to stop further delays. Critics had pointed to his ownership stake as a major conflict of interest. Today, the governor was asked if the public should be worried about these political connections and the fact that her administration has been sued twice over major contracts. She says legal battles like this are simply part of the job.
Of course they can trust the process. Look, guys, I remember as Attorney General, it was often the case that there would be litigation following any bid award, right?
Now, the governor insists the Division of Capital Asset Management, or DCAM, chose the Liberty Street site because it saves taxpayers $300 million. She says the priority is getting workers into a safe environment as fast as possible. And for the workers still reporting to the building every day, savings aren't the priority, safety is. The developers suing the state are asking a judge to throw out the entire award and start over. If that happens, the clock resets. A new search for a site could take months, if not years, leaving staff and the public in a building they say is actively making them sick. Now, the next major court date in this lawsuit is August 11th, so of course we will continue to bring you the latest on that. But for now, reporting live in Springfield, Reagan Lokri, West.